legal cannabis. We'll speak to her in just a moment. Temporary therapist, a bridging gap for disability services with her brand new book. How to cope with the grief of losing a pet, particularly at Christmas time. We'll be hearing from Katrina Morrissey of the Farmers Journal. Muriel Cuddy will be with us live in studio with our health slot, and we have a little piece of Down Your Way on the way to 1800 938 007. Now, a woman living with endometriosis in Tipperary is believed to be the first to receive a ministerial licence for cannabis prescription to treat pain associated with this condition. Amy Brown, who is expecting her first legal cannabis delivery tomorrow, joins me right now. Amy, good morning to you.
Good morning, Fran. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome indeed, and I know you've had a poor night, so I won't keep you all that long, Amy. But first of all, could you just tell us, because we mightn't be too sure, what exactly is endometriosis?
So it's a condition where tissue similar to the lining of the womb, but not quite the same, grows in other organs of the body. So it's been described as the most aggressive, benign disease there is, with no cure.
Can you tell me how you've suffered with this? I mean, what have the symptoms been over the year? Is it pain mostly?
Yeah, so pain, back pain, pelvic pain, joint pain, shoulder pain. Then I've obviously, a lot of women would have really, really severe periods where they're very heavy and unmanageable. And then I suppose as well myself, I suffer quite a lot with nausea and vomiting, and then like constipation or diarrhea. So it all very much depends on the day. It can be cyclical in some of the symptoms, in that every 2 weeks or so I'd have really bad sciatica, and that's because I'd be ovulating or due, or, you know, so some of it is cyclical and some of it is all month round, unfortunately.
Did it take quite some time for you to get a diagnosis on this, Amy?
Yeah, so I wasn't diagnosed till I was 21. And I was telling my story for a while, thinking that my symptoms began when I was 11, when I got my first period. But it was only after years of getting my notes under the Freedom of Information Act and going back and looking at my history that I discovered I was actually hospitalised 3 times between the age of 8 and 11 for the same symptoms, and I was going to go on to ruin my teens and 20s.
And at that stage, what were they telling you that you had? How did they describe your condition?
They just kept saying that I was very unfortunate, that some people just suffer this way, some people just have heavy periods. Then they'd say that it was like, maybe it was all in my head, maybe I was just over anxious, and maybe the pain wasn't really that bad. I mean, there was teachers in the school that told my mum, look, Amy has her periods the same as everyone else, she's just going to have to get on with it. And like, I was fainting. I was passing out with the pain, and, you know, they were having to send me home all the time. And that my mum even got berated for believing me, you know?
My God, and this must have affected your mental health, Amy, did it?
Oh, significantly. Yeah, significantly, especially as a young teenager. Like, I was put on the contraceptive pill at 11, and for 10 years then I was given every hormonal treatment on the market. So, like I've said before, I deal with women now on a one-to-one basis in their 30s and 40s, experiencing all these trial and error medications, and their mental health is falling apart. So it really kind of signifies for me how much I was put through as a teenager, and like how little support I had, you know.
In terms of, I mean, you say every medication out there you've tried at some point or other, but the side effects of some of that must have been considerable, was it? Yeah,
so that's the hardest part really of trying the various medications, is you're so desperate to find something that's going to help you, only to end up taking something that actually causes symptoms that are worse than the ones that you're trying to get rid of in the first place. You know, so it's really, really difficult, like when you're trial and error and all these medications. And like a lot of them had me feeling like a zombie. I wasn't present. The antidepressants made me feel very numb. You know, I'm not knocking them for people that they work for, don't get me wrong, but for me personally, it wasn't right for me. And I was constantly asking and constantly bringing up the conversation about cannabis, but unfortunately I was met with a lot of rejection and a lot of stigma.
How did it come about then that you will be able to access medicinal cannabis? How did that come about?
So I suppose when the medicinal cannabis access program was introduced, I was very interested in how it was going to play out. And so I done a hell of a lot of research and made sure that I was well versed in what was happening. So I understood that I don't qualify for the medical cannabis access program, but discovered that I could go the ministerial license route if I could access the pain consultant to agree to prescribe it and to oversee the treatment. So that was the hardest hurdle, to be honest, because I'm sure you know yourself, the waiting list for consultants are extremely long. The first one I waited for 5 years told me to emigrate if I wanted to use cannabis. So I said, well, that's fine for me, but what about the other 10 women who could benefit significantly from this option? You know, I can't just abandon them. So anyways, I carried on and I waited and got another appointment with a different clinic, and this guy agreed to hear me out, and he said, look, we'll go your route if you choose to go mine first, and we'll see if the procedures that I can do might help. So I agreed to that. That was fine. And unfortunately, I think it was 3 procedures I had with him didn't help. And so he stuck to his word then and decided that he would apply for the ministerial license on my behalf, and we got it. So it's amazing.
It's fantastic. Now, I know that it's very costly, so how will you get around that, Aimee?
Well, it's €216 for the prescription that I'm on at the moment for a month. If my dosage increases by a gram a day, that will go €216 over the month. Do you know, that's for 30 grams. So if I go from 1 gram a day to 2 grams, it's going to double. If I go from 1 to 3, it's going to triple. So that is going to be quite problematic moving forward. But I'm keen that we're going to be successful with getting the government to listen and include it on the drugs payment scheme, because I'm going to save them a fortune on all the opioids that I won't be prescribed anymore. And also, I have a medical card that I didn't pay for those opioids in the first place.
Yes,
so I don't know why they expect me now all of a sudden to have money for this cannabis medication on a means tested disability payment. Do you know?
And would it not come in under that chronic illness payment that's out there?
I wasn't aware of a chronic illness payment. I'm aware of an additional needs payment, and I'm going to go that avenue and try and get some help. But no, I wasn't aware of the
Right. Well, I know that if you have diabetes, for example, it's seen as being a chronic illness and a long-term illness, and you get your meds for free in that case. So does it come in under that, I wonder, in some fashion?
I'll certainly look into it, Fran. That's another avenue now for me to research.
Yeah, it might be well worth having a look at. Are you pretty sure that this will help you? I mean, is there much research out there, Aimee, around this, for example?
Yeah, so there's lots and lots of research. In Canada, they actually run workshops for patients to explain to them which strain of cannabis is most effective for which symptoms and which way to consume it. Because there's many ways to consume cannabis and it comes in many forms. So the answer to your question is yes, it will help 100%. I know it will because of my own anecdotal evidence over the past 15 years. Cannabis has been my only consistency. But sadly, I was sourcing it on an unregulated market, and I ran the risk of running into the Gardaí or, jail sentence. So,
but it did help you, Aimee. It did help straight away, did it?
It helped immensely with physical pain, with emotional anguish, with PTSD, with anxiety, with social stuff. Wow. It's helped me in more ways than I can even express. But, I suppose the thing is, I'm finally being recognised in the eyes of the law as a legal patient. I have my diagnosis for endometriosis for 9 years now. And it's only now that I'm actually recognised as a legal patient. I was still breaking the law as a patient for all those years. So my goal is to empower other women to come forward and to speak out about their cannabis consumption, because there's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to be stigmatised for, and no one else has to live and walk in our shoes in that much pain every day. So nobody else should have a say on our bodily autonomy and what we choose to consume to feel better.
Absolutely. Can I finally ask, Aimee, the toll on your life? Would I be speaking to a very, very different Aimee Brown if you didn't suffer with endometriosis?
Oh, absolutely. Like the trajectory of my life has completely changed because of my condition. And look, I don't regret it. I suppose I like to think that I'm turning my pain into power. I'm helping so many women out there, like what I'm doing with advocacy and stuff. And, you know, I'm doing social care work. I'm in the middle of a degree, a bachelor's degree. Brilliant. And I don't think that education or my passion would be fueled as much if I hadn't gone through so much, you know. And then the team in Romania, I went there 3 years ago for surgery, for multidisciplinary excision surgery. And it really gave me a chance at life again. So I'm going back again now in 2 weeks. Unfortunately, the chronic pain and the symptoms have resurfaced quite significantly this year, and I'm worried about the disease having regrown on my diaphragm. So the surgery is booked. I head over to Romania Sunday week. I'll be there for Christmas by myself, but I've been saying it's worth sacrificing this Christmas to hopefully have a future of more manageable pain, and I have a GoFundMe at the moment running to get the funds up for that. So hopefully all going well. And
tell me about that GoFundMe. How can people help you out there, Aimee?
So on all my social media, I have a Linktree link that brings you to all the advocacy work I've done, and the GoFundMe is in here. Or they can simply Google GoFundMe and the name Aimee Brown, or even endometriosis, and I'm sure it will come up.
All right. Well, we wish you the very, very best. And I know that it was a struggle for you to talk to me today because you're feeling a little unwell, Aimee. But thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And the very best of luck to you, Aimee.
Thank you, Fran. We appreciate you covering the topic as well. It means the world.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
You too, Aimee. Thank you, and a happy Christmas to you. That's Aimee Brown speaking to us there, the first endometriosis sufferer to get legal cannabis. 1800 938 007. Back in a moment.
Tip today.